Okay, this video is how to repair a hydraulic steering ram on these. This is a Linwall 1984. It's got a Hwa Hynautic system. So let's go down below and I'll show you how to rebuild the ram. Okay, so I'm going to be rather brief with this. There's not too much out there on video on how to rebuild these rams for the Hwa Hynautic systems. I found two things. One was kind of decent. The other guy was completely wrong. And I have to say this. I've been a professional mechanic for almost 40 years. I mean, I did it for a living. I worked on them. It's my engine room. I fix things. And you cannot imagine how often the loudest assholes out there are pushing bullshit. And it's wrong. And it will break your boat. The thing I just saw was so bad that I thought, you know what? I got to put something out there because anyone listening to this idiot is going to mess up their boat. So let's get to that. Let's get that across, okay? That's my tirade. It pisses me off when there's shit out there. It's going to mess you up. Don't listen to these idiots. Here's how this thing's work. Here's the system itself. So let me turn the camera on and show you how this works. Now this is a video for people who have some experience working on stuff. You know, you have to have some basic skills to do any kind of work. This is what the hydraulic ram looks like. I've already taken it off the boat. Off the back of the where it goes. On the ends here are some pieces that hook up to the rudder. I'll show that to you later in another video. But this here has these rods that are in it, and there's some screws that are in there. Let's see what they look like. See if I can get some light on this. You see how they have that? It's like a head with a little slot in it right there. You can see that slot by my knuckle. So what you have to do is you have to make yourself a socket to take those off. Let's go get the socket. Okay, here's my socket. Get a tour of the boat while we're doing this. Okay, this socket, this is a 7/16 socket. The Hwa Hynautic instructions when you buy the kit, and I'll show you a picture of where you can get the kit from for all the seals, tells you to fabricate this socket. You just take a 7/16 socket and you put them tips in it like that. Because inside these holes, right in there, this has to fit in there like that, and it sits in those grooves and it holds it. The other thing is you want to put vice grips on this to hold this here. Now, let me show you something else about this. Okay, here's my little, I call it a DD bag. It's my tool tray. It's got most of the stuff I need. When you get your vice grips and you go to put it on this thing, okay, and you grip this, remember, this is a cylinder, and this ram goes in and out and slides to that cylinder. If you grip this thing too tight on the base there and these vice grips are hitting right here, you could possibly dent that. So don't be an idiot. When you grab these vice grips and you put them on there to keep that rod from twisting, and you're turning this screw with this socket to loosen those things up to separate these rods so this comes apart, make sure that this thing, while it's on there, your vice grips, does not twist and put a ding in there. Otherwise, you just killed the entire system. You got to use common sense. There are people out there who can break a fiberglass hammer. They're just idiots. Don't be one of those people. So when you put that on there, be very careful. Make sure you got a little bit of a gap between there and there. Don't let that hit. You'll damage that. And then you're up the creek without a paddle or a boat. So that's that part. Let's move on to the next item. Next item. Here's the kit. I'll show you where you can buy it in a minute. What's important is this date. These seals are 2 years old. That's not bad. Here's the seals. The one that usually leaks, what causes you to lose steering, is inside here. Now I've already rebuilt this, so I'm not going to take it apart again. I was going to do this video. I was curious about bleeding it, and I was looking at some stuff, and when I realized how bad stuff was out there, I decided to put this up there. There's these seals here. They go in the middle. There's a little rod in there. When you take yours apart, you'll see what's in there. It's pretty obvious. These big fat ones, these are the ones that leak. They go up and down this shaft. Make sure you buy some 1200 emery cloth sandpaper, and this thing has to be absolutely smooth. I mean, we're talking smooth. Sometimes you can get a little rust mine right there, like that. This isn't, I've already shined mine. But if you get that, if it's from pitting, you want this thing to be absolutely, I mean, you don't want to feel anything. So that this seal, which goes inside here, this is what holds the fluid pressure, can slide in and out. There's also a couple little felts in there. Here's the little felts. This is a K27 series. There's other ones in there. The felt goes in here, keeps this thing lubricated. And that's all there is just a bunch of seals. That's basically it. A bunch of O-rings. You got one here, a bigger one like this other one here, and you got a felt, and you got one of these little plastic things. I don't have any extras that go on the end here. That's all it takes. Make sure everything's clean. It takes 72 inch-pounds, which is 6 foot-pounds when you tighten these up, or just tight. Remember, there's a seal. You just don't want the fluid coming out of there. And that's how you rebuild this unit. Take it apart, clean it, put the seals in it, polish the shaft, make sure it's very smooth, lubricate everything when you put it together, and that's what you do with this thing. By the way, on your parts here, see this here? It says K27. That's what this unit is. So when you get the seal kit, I'm getting the seal kit for the K27. Let me go show you the address for the K27. Okay, here's the fluid that I bought to fill the system. This system takes steering fluid, uses ATF type A or H5606 hydraulic fluid. Now I couldn't get H5606, but this is the equivalent. That's what I'm using. As far as a reseal kit for the unit itself, here's the guy I bought it from. Did a great job, sent it really quick. The parts were $95 each. I got 2 to have a spare. There is my total. And that's what there is about that. Here's the instructions that came with the kit. I've got the K27. I put down the date that I replaced it. There's some basic information. It shows you the different stuff. It's very self-explanatory when you take it apart. Okay, so here's a little video of the system that I took out. Here's the 2 hoses that go into it, and the other 2. I removed it. There's one of the rudders, another one over here, and there's of course the arms that bolt into the unit itself. I removed them so that I could rebuild it properly. Okay, here's the ram. I cleaned up the area it's gonna go. The ram goes in here, and we're gonna bolt it back in place. Okay, I bolted the, I call it a ram. It's a hydraulic cylinder, whatever you want to call it. Now what we're going to do is after it's installed, we're going to bleed it. Now there's a couple ways to do this. There's the lazy man way, and then there's the right way. They're both good, but one's easier than the other. But before I do that, I want to tell you guys about wrenches. Now these here are called line wrenches. If you notice, the ends on these are different than on the box end openings, because these are designed to grip these types of devices. You want to use these for this, because if you use these, they'll work. If you put a lot of pressure on them, they could slip out. These are more like a socket, they don't slip out. This is a Harbor Freight special. They're very cheap. They have all the sizes in them, so I suggest you buy these. And the other thing is, when you're tightening this thing up, these nipples here, you want to hold them. You just don't want to put a wrench in this thing and yank up on it, because you run the risk of breaking this nipple off, and then you have other problems. So you hold this down, hold this up, and then you do your tightening on things, and make sure you do like this, handing to equal pressure so that you know you're not yanking something up or down. And we'll go ahead and install all sides. The other thing I was going to say is that if I wanted to, I could put a little rubber hose on this, put it in a bucket on both sides, go upstairs, fill it up, so that I'm not wasting the fluid, and I'm just circulating it through the bucket to get all of the lines purged. And then the same thing here. Here's your purge lines on this here, these little things on the top, because you want to get the fluid in there. And remember, this is divided in 2, so if you get the fluid on one side, if this ram pushes over, which it should, there'll be no air over there. Vice versa if it goes this way. Let's do that. So that's the way to do this. You notice I got a pan down here with the old fluid, so that's how I'm going to catch the bulk of it myself. I'm going to do it the lazy man's way. Go ahead and install everything, and then just go upstairs and start spinning the wheel and watch it go back and forth. The other thing is, when we get upstairs, these units usually run on 30 psi. They have a little reservoir, and I'll show that to you in a little bit, and you pump it up. But because I have this autopilot, and this is from Garmin, they don't want you putting 30 psi on their systems. By the way, these will run with 0 psi. They'll work. A little pressure is good. I usually run it with 6 psi with the Garmin unit. That's what the manufacturer suggested. Since they operate at 0 pressure, 6 psi is not a problem. And I had this boat for 2.5 years before these seals started leaking, and it ran at 6 psi with no issues. Like I said, the only reason all of this happened is because these seals on the end started leaking fluid out, and of course when the fluid went down, I lost steering. First I lost it on the top, then I lost it on the bottom. the autopilot continued to work even though both helms didn't work because it's down low and they had enough fluid. So I was able to just use my Garmin left, right, and steer the boat in and park it without any issues. But that's why this is being done. One of the things I forgot to mention, by the way, is when you put it on these compression fittings, you got to make sure they're very straight. These things here, if you just put it on there like that, sometimes they got to be this way and this way and this way and this way. So you want to make sure they're very straight and they go on smooth. They'll fool you and you'll think it's on straight. It'll go in a turn and a half and then it'll strip and then you'll have a leak. So just be sure that that goes on nice and easy. You can use this wrench just to initially start it. It should be real smooth like I did all of these. Then on the final tightening up, I'll put this on here. I'll put the bigger one there and I'll snug it up. You watching? You can video this if you want. That'd be a good idea. Okay, here's the reservoir. It's got these little windows in it. You can kind of see if you put a light to it. You can see where the level is. Or you can do what I did. Made this little wire. I dip it in from the top and I check it. You notice there's no pressure in it. And remember, most of the stock systems, I don't have my Garmin autopilot on it. They usually run around 20 to 30 psi, but I've got a Garmin unit in it, so I'm going to be running mine at 6 under there. And the other thing I got to do is to bleed it. I fill that, and then over here, let me see if I can zoom in on that. I got to climb in there. There's my bleeder valves on the side. I gotta take that bottom screw out, and when I fill this unit over here, sorry about this. When I fill this up and pressurize it, the fluid will start flowing through that line to that upper helm, which my beautiful assistant here will turn it, and we'll start from the top and work our way to the next helm, to the back, one line at a time, then the other line, and we'll be done. So let's start that. Okay, here's the amount of oil that I purged out of the system. You can see it's a considerable amount. I flushed it out. Everything is hooked up. I haven't hooked it up to the rods yet, because now I'm going to center the rod by measurement and center the rudder so that everything's straight. So you can see that I've got my gorgeous assistant with her headphones on, and mine are too. She's going to be upstairs steering while I'm adjusting. I'm going to center this piece, get that centered, put the end on it, and then put the pin in it. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to center the wheel. She's already turned it one way all the way, and she counted turns. It was 5 1/4 turns. She's going to go the other way, count the 5 1/4 turns, and then center the wheel. So honey, go ahead and go back to where you believe it's center. You've already done the halfway where you think it would be center. So it would be like, I guess, 2 1/2 turns. Okay, now I'm going to measure it to make sure it's exactly centered. So let's take my tape measure. And we have here 9 and an 8 to that ring. Let's check the other side. I got to put the phone down for that. Hang on a second. Okay, so we got it centered left and right, measured in here, so it's perfectly centered here. Now what I want to do is I'm going to put this on. We use Loctite, put it back on, and I'm going to center the rudder independent from this with the engine running. I'm going to put the engine forward, this is going to move, and it's going to center itself. Once that's centered and this is installed, I can make the adjustment here so that this pin drops in perfectly smooth right there. And now I will know that when my steering wheel is centered, the rudders are perfectly balanced one to the other. We're going to do this with both sides. There won't be one in or one out. They'll both be perfectly straight when the engine is, when the ram is centered. And that's basically it. And this way, when you're going in forward, you get maximum efficiency. Everything will work great. And that's how you do it. Of course, now remember, when you turn the steering wheel upstairs and you feel resistance, when this is at the end, you don't sit there and jam it like that idiot I saw doing that on that other YouTube channel. When you feel pressure, you're done. Don't be forcing that thing, because if you force it, you're going to blow these seals out over here. And you'll be right back where you started. Spin it, it'll stop, you're good to go. That's it. So I'll show you the finished product in a minute, but in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and put Loctite on this. Here it is right here, it's thread lock, and I'm going to put it back together, and then when I run the engines, I'll show you the centering of the rudder. Okay, last step, I put this piece on, looks like it's pretty close, but we're gonna check it. I'm gonna start the motor, put it in forward, come down here, feel this, make sure it's centered. See that it all lines up. It's gonna be loud while the motor's running, so I won't be able to talk, but you'll get the idea what I'm doing. This side will be done. I'll repeat the process for the other side with its rod, and then put that on. Then we'll go upstairs, we'll check the reservoir to make sure it didn't go down any additional amount. As far as priming this, it's still primed, but nonetheless we will run it. But this is a Garmin, so each one has your boat may have something different, so there's no point in showing you how to bleed that system. The bleeding valves are right here on top, in case you're wondering. And of course we'll do that. What we'll do on that is we'll do a manual stop to stop, left to right. It should work fine. And that's how you do your rudder. So let's go start it up and I'll show you what's going on. Okay, we're upstairs. Let me make sure my boat's tied properly. It is. I got spring lines. It's not going anywhere. So let's fire this old beast up. By the way, see here this buzzer? I have this switch. A lot of people don't install these, so it turns your buzzer off so you can hear the motor when it starts, and then you turn it back on after the motor starts for your warnings. So here we go, ignition on. Motor's on. The tack will come on, buzzer on. Okay, give it a minute to warm up. Charging's good, everything's working. I've already tested it in the past. I know water's coming out the back. So let's drop her in gear and low at idle. Give it just a smudge. I don't want to rip the cleats out of the dock here. Okay, let's go check out the back, see if the water's flowing, which it should be. Okay, you can see the flow is straight. That's good. So now we know we have straight flow across the rudder. Let's go downstairs and see what it looks like down there. And before I get down there so you can hear me, I'm going to grab the rudder and move it a little bit just to see that it recenters itself. If it doesn't center by itself, then something else needs to be adjusted. Try and quiet it down a little bit. Alright, let's see what this rudder does. So here it is. You can see when I push it off to one side, it does recenter itself, and that's the point. So I'm going to look out my window and see what my rudder does. You see it wants to come back. It's working it, it's coming back to center. You can see here it's coming back to center. Now it wants to stay there. That little bit of motion is good. Let's go the other way and check it. Coming back, it's coming back, it's coming back. So it wants to come to center. So now let's just confirm. Stepped on a shaving. That it's right in the middle. That's got the least resistance. Now let's see at the pin lines. It's off. And it's off by that much. When I release it, it wants to go back. Now, that's not much. But it's enough that since I'm a perfectionist, I'm going to go ahead and take that adjustment out right here and turn that thing out. Then I'm going to put the pin in, and with that, this rudder is done. You know, that little bit ain't going to amount to much, especially when you can hold it with your hand. But nonetheless, why not make it perfect? We've centered this, we got this centered, this side is done. We're going to repeat the process for that side. And with that, now your rudders are centered, your reel is centered, and everything will go straight. And we can go fishing. That's it, guys. Thanks. Okay, it's done. The reservoir upstairs is full. I got 10 psi in it, or 8. Checked all those bleeding screws for leaks. I did find one leaking. Retightened it. That's not leaking anymore. Checked all of the fittings here. I checked the center on the rudders. Everything has been centered. Took the air nozzle, blasted everything clean, so if a leak does develop or if my work is screwed up, you won't see that video ever. And I would repair that, obviously. But basically that was it. Autopilot's working. It works. So all in all, it cost me $90 to rebuild that Hynautic steering thing, and $17 for a gallon of fluid. The piston, I think, is $800 if you were to replace it, something like that. The rebuild guy wanted, I think, $400 just throw a couple seals in it. So it's not something you can't do. It's really easy. It's self-explanatory. You just got to be very methodical, very slow, very dedicated. And in conclusion, don't take that wheel and jam it like a Madre de Dios, you know, because you don't want to be walking, well, I shouldn't say walking home, swimming home. But there it is. Everything works. It's great. This last one lasted, what, 35 years, 40 years? I don't know if it was ever rebuilt before that. But I'm almost 70. This will outlive me, and that's all that matters. My sweetheart will also outlive me, but she's going to get paid for that. All right, guys. That's the end of the video for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this Hynautic overhaul and bleeding system showed you something. You can always text me if you have questions on it. Hopefully not too many people, because it can be overwhelming. But other than that, thank you, and I'll talk to you later. Hey, I forgot to add one thing to the video. I just commented. I didn't actually show the bleeding on those screws. When I showed the picture of the steering box, those two little screws, I loosened them up, not all the way, just enough so that I could jiggle them, and the fluid came out. And on the hydraulic ram downstairs, I took out those 2 Allens and let them out too, and all the fluid came out, and that's how I bled the entire system. And then of course I spun it. So I forgot to mention that or show that, because I needed both hands to do that. But that's what that was all about. So, all right, guys, here's one last look at Penasco. Look at that. That's Sarai Garcia. That's the boat that hit me. What a neighborhood.